would New York legislators try to kill charter schools like this and tell Barack Obama to go to hell and keep his $700 million?
We don't need your money. We like the status quo the way it is. That's what the New York legislature said.
All right, welcome back to Morning Joe. We're live in Pensacola. That was 6 months ago after New York failed to act on...
You look so young, that John Legend.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me just 6 months ago.
Oh, well, you looked a lot younger then, too.
Yeah, a lot
Been
can
a rough
happen in 6 months. Anyhow, that was round one of the $700 million Race to the Top education grant. And now the White House is set to announce the grant's round two winners. But will New York get a second chance? Joining us again to continue the conversation, Grammy Award-winning singer and songwriter John Legend. He's also involved in the new documentary Waiting for Superman that takes a look at the troubled state of public education. It is amazing. Also with us, Dr. Deborah Kenny, founder and chief executive of the Harlem Village Academies. Thanks to you both for being with us. And
so where do we stand? You know, New York State 6 months ago dragging their feet, the legislature not being helpful in the least. But it looks like some progress has been made, that charter schools, public charter schools, made a big advance over the past 6 months.
Well, we're excited because New York State, as well as many states in the country, responded to the president's call and said, we're going to put the needs of children above adults' personal interests. That happens to be one of our values. At our school, we have a set of values, and one of them is we always put the needs of children above ours. And this is what happened across the country. It's been extraordinary.
It's actually more progress has been made this year when it comes to reform in education than anybody can remember in the history of this country.
Yeah.
So the Race to the Top has been an effective impetus for that change. It's interesting how we define success, though, because Deborah and I were talking backstage, and it used to be, you know, a cap of 200 charter schools in New York State, and now the cap's moved to 400. But one question we all might want to ask is, if a school is proving to do very well, if a format is proving to do very well, why are you even limiting it to 400?
Right.
So if you find some great principals that want to start a school and
that's a good question.
And do a great thing in their community, why is there a limit of 400?
Right. What we were saying is, why are we celebrating lifting the cap? Why is there even a concept of a cap? Why does that word even exist? Why would you have a cap on the number of kids who are allowed to attend an excellent school? Isn't this America? Shouldn't every kid have the right to attend a great school?
What has been the answer to that question? Surely you've
Nobody's asked the question. I haven't heard it.
Answer. Because the teachers union doesn't want to lose their grip on so many teachers.
So that was a compromise.
Yeah.
So, Deborah, how has the conversation changed about charter schools over, say, the last year or so? There was some resistance early on. You've been coming on regularly over the last year, and it feels like some momentum has built around this idea.
Yeah, I think that the leadership that we've had under President Obama and Secretary Duncan has been absolutely extraordinary, because what they've done is really reached out to everyone and said, we want you to collaborate, and we want you to find a way for everybody to come together on behalf of the best interests of children. And people across all different segments of the education world have done that. And there have been more changes in the last 6 months than really any time in history because of their leadership.
And it's not a charter school thing. It's about education reform. Right. So charter schools are part of education reform. But if you look at Race to the Top, it's a lot of other things that will reform the entire system, like making sure teachers are accountable, making sure that tenure isn't just automatic and not tied to some kind of results. All these things are things we need in all of our schools. This is not just a charter school thing.
And for whatever reason, they've been tough things to achieve over the years. Mika.
Well, Deborah and John, we've been such fans of the work that you all have been doing and following you for months in terms of your efforts on this issue. One thing Joe and I can actually agree on as it pertains to this administration is what the President and the Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan, is trying to do. We were at an event with him, a fabulous event the other day.
Arne Duncan, when you hear Arne Duncan talking and you hear the President talking about this, It is so exciting, and you realize, and Deborah had said this early on, especially in New York right now with the mayor and Joel Klein and Arnie Duncan in Washington and the reformers all across America, that, Mika, this is a historic time.
Yeah.
We could change education in America over the next 2 or 3 years, because we have politicians from the White House all the way to City Hall that seem dedicated to the same proposition that every kid deserves a top quality education.
And right now, every kid doesn't get that. In the movie where you composed Shine for Waiting for Superman,
Yeah.
John, tell us about that, because I believe that's coming out this fall, and that shows exactly what we're talking about here, how unbelievably unfair the system is for America's children.
We all know that education really determines your future. The difference between someone who gets a great education and someone who doesn't is so clear. The difference for that individual is clear, and the difference for society is very clear. And so we know that we need to make sure every kid gets a great education, and right now every kid is not getting that. And the film basically depicts that in a very stark way, because it shows a lottery system where some kids are able to get into the best school in their neighborhood and some kids aren't. And the future for those kids is going to be very different because of that. And we can't be in a system where we allow a lottery to decide our kids' future. And the film basically exposes that. And I think it's a powerful, powerful film. I wrote a song called Shine for it because I was really inspired by the film. And I hope everybody watches it. It comes out in the fall, and I think everyone should see it.
You know, one of the most significant differences in what you're doing in the charter schools and in public schools, try hard as they might, and most public schools do try hard, is what you were talking about earlier. Teachers reporting next week and the disciplinary boot camp for pupils at the end of the month. Talk about that.
Well, our teachers come in August 1st, and so they have a 5-week vacation instead of a 10-week vacation. And it's something they sign up for in advance. I mean, obviously, they interview and choose our school, and so we spend 5 weeks collaborating. Now, during this 5-week period, it's professional development that the teachers design with us. So everything we do, we ask teachers, what do you need? What do you want to improve yourself this year? How can we as a team work together to make the school better? We have this concept of Kaizen, which is a Japanese concept of continual improvement. So we analyze every single thing that happened the year before. How can we do this better in behavior, in curriculum, in meeting the students' needs, whatever we need to improve. And so the teachers really like this time that they have to get together, but 5 weeks to plan the year. And then once the year starts, it's like the game is on. We're ready to start.
What's the boot camp like?
Oh, so what happens is the kids come in on August 30th, but far before the normal start of the school year. And the little 5th graders come in, and basically you sit them down and you say, you cannot even enter the classroom. And they look at you, they're a little confused. What do you mean I can't? Because I haven't told you yet how you enter a classroom in our school. And I'll tell you, they get a little bit scared at first because, you could hear a pin drop because you use a tone of authority and you sort of make it clear, we are the adults, you are the children. We will tell you exactly how behavior is going to happen here. And every single thing we want a kid to do behavior-wise, there's an entire lesson. So listening to the teacher's directions right away and all the way, we spend an hour on that. How to walk in the hallway, we spend 4 hours. How to sit up straight, look at the person who's speaking, all of those things.
And Joe and Mika, we've been to the school. That's the thing that jumped out at me first and foremost. The behavior of the kids walking, reading books when they're waiting in line, and so well behaved.
And the idea is not to train little soldiers. The idea is to set a tone so that you can educate them and make them into well-rounded individuals. But you have to set that tone.
Yeah.
Is Joe too old to be in the class? Perhaps in 3rd grade? We can start all over again. You're not allowed to enter the classroom. Can't talk.
Now, the thing I want to make clear, what John just said, is that once kids learn how to behave and comport themselves, it actually creates this joy because everything is calm, and so now we can teach at a higher level, more critical thinking, more creativity,
right,
because the behavior is done.
They enter the classroom ready to learn, and that's the key. All right, thank you all for all your great
Deborah
work.
Kenny, thank you. And by the way, NBC is going to be hosting a fall summit on education. We're going to be hosting a town hall special on this. You all will be a part of it. We look forward to that and continuing the conversation.
Keep up the great work.
Thanks very much. So how difficult is it for victims here in the Gulf to get compensation? Keep it right here on Morning Joe Live.